All right. So we are starting a new series. It's going to take us up to Easter time, and it's called Same God, Different Seasons. And a couple of years ago, I had done a couple messages on what we're talking about tonight, and then one on when God doesn't answer our prayers. And I thought that's good, and I could do a bunch of miserable things. We could talk all about miserable things, but we also need to look at the other side of that. Of what about when things go well? How do we approach that? In Philippians, we probably know Philippians 4:13. What does it say? Don't look at the screen, but what does Philippians 4:13 say? Good churchy people who've been here forever. You don't know. That's okay. You don't know. That was mumbly. Do you really know? Did you know? She raised her hand. You got this? Just 4:13? Do you know like that famous it's on yeah, I can do all things through Christ who strength. We need to start doing memory verses in here. You should know that. That's like a t-shirt, coffee cup verse. We're going to do memory verses. It's happening. Okay. So that verse has often been used as I can do anything, God will help me do that. Okay. The context of that verse is actually Paul saying, hey, when I suffer, I've learned how to suffer well. And when I'm not suffering, I've learned how to not suffer well. He says in 11 through 13, he says, not that I'm speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Paul's saying that he can face any situation with grace. He can navigate anything because it's the Lord who's helping him with wisdom and grace. When I say grace, I don't mean in this context forgiveness. I mean grace as ability. When God gives us the ability to do something, we call that a form of grace. And so Paul is saying here that no matter what is going on, he knows how to navigate that. What's interesting about that is it would make sense to a lot of us to say, oh yeah, when things are going bad, I need the Lord. That would make sense. And that is true, right? That is true. And we feel it often when things are going bad. And I'm going to give you some bad, hard things, but we're going to talk about even tonight. We're going to start with a bad thing, a hard thing. But at the same time, what Paul is saying is that we need God's grace when things are going well, when things are going well. I met a gentleman several years ago from a church in, I think it was Tanzania. We weren't in Tanzania. We were in LA, and I was talking to him, and he had some pretty harsh things to say. And I was like, it was one of those we just met. This is a lot right now. Can we? But he was telling me that the church in the United States is dying, and I was listening. Because this is somebody from outside who's looking at it, somebody who from a country where they go through a lot. And I'd been there several times, and I knew what he was talking about. And there's a lot there. And he is saying that our church is dying mainly because life is too easy, it's too complacent, it's too nice. And I was like, I don't know how to take that now. I really don't believe that, by the way. I don't believe that the church in the United States is dying, but I do believe that we are in that danger of easiness. Things are easy. And if you, like me, you're like, no, they're not. Well, you're like, I didn't have a job in a tree when I was 2 years old. You poor man. Actually sounds kind of fun. Are you afraid of heights now?
Oh, no. I was on the ground.
You were on the ground. You were on the ground. Smart role to play. Just point it and be like, that branch, do that branch. Okay. For most of us, besides tobacco and trees and tires, life is often pretty simple. My wife travailed today, and she went and you got food at fast food, and they probably gave it to you right away, and you left, and the kids played, and you came here, and then we put them in some room, and easy, right? Life's easy in a lot of ways. I'm not saying life's easy in every way. I'm not diminishing it. What I'm saying is we live in a world where things are given often more easily to us than we realize, right? And you've all have your parents are like, in my day, well, I don't know, Tony's like, it's still his day. He's like, in my day, I rolled tobacco for $2 an hour at 8 years old. That's not all of us. Tony's just, he's a manly man. But for most of us, life gets simple in a lot of ways, not always, and we'll talk about those. But because of that, there's a spiritual danger that comes with that. That's what I'm trying to get to. There's a spiritual danger that comes with that. And we're going to explore that, but there's also spiritual opportunity. And so for some of you are more like me, and my nickname when I was a kid was Eeyore, and you're a little like down, and you're kind of a bummer, and everything is sad, and that's just sort of the world that you live in. That's the world I live in. I'm a bummer. You don't want to try to have fun with me. I'm a downer. But I'm working on it. However, so some of you, like me, would go, yeah, like the difficulties, like those make sense. And you might even say those are that's what's right. We should be in great difficulty. Everything should be hard for us. Everything should be a battle. Everything should be difficult. When we're suffering, then we're with the Lord. And when we're suffering for him, everything should be hard. Everything should be hard. And in reality, it's not that one of these is wrong or right. Paul is saying here he has the grace for when things are hard, and he has the grace for when they're easy. There's just two different approaches. So some of you, like me, would lock into everything should be difficult, and that's when I'm at my spiritual best. Maybe not. Maybe not. But that's a limited way to look at our walk with the Lord. It says that I'm only walking with the Lord when I'm suffering, so I better suffer. That's actually a very limited way to view our life with the Lord. Others of you, you are unicorny kind of people, and everything should be good and everything should be happy and everything if I'm following the Lord, it should be that I'm happy, and it should be that I'm fulfilled, and it should be that things are wonderful, and that's how it should be. And anything else must mean that I'm not close to the Lord right now. That's also a very limited way to look at our walk with the Lord. And both of those lead to unhappiness, actually. Both of those they lead us away from the Lord when we either say, I must suffer or I must enjoy. I'm not submitted to what the Lord has for me, and I'm not leaning on his grace for whatever is going on. And that's what Paul says he's learned. He's learned this secret. For some of us, we think the secret is, how do I get to nice things? And Paul's saying, actually, the secret is once you get to the nice things, there's a risk involved. And we'll explore that as we go. And we're going to go through some different topics. We'll do a quick poll here. This is easy. Are you ready? Do you want to? This is really high tech. You're going to raise your hand. High tech. How many of you are more like me in the Eeyore people? Where's my Eeyore people that you're like, yes, if we suffer, yes. One of you, yes. The rest of you are like, too Eeyore. You're just too depressed to raise your hand right now. I get it. You're the true Eeyores of the room. Okay, how many of you are unicorny people and you're like, everything should be happy? More of you. Okay. Maybe because you're more exuberant and you like raising your hand for things. I don't know. But yeah, interesting. I was just curious about where we're at. What's that? Both? That's too complicated. That's hard. Do you want to be a both, Cole? Okay, who's a both with Cole? A few of you are both. That's a cop-out. Whatever. Okay. But yeah, so we're going to explore different things, and we're going to see, as the title said, it's the same God, but they're different seasons. And we need to know, and we need to learn that secret Paul's learned of, when I'm in this hard season, how do I follow the Lord faithfully? And when I'm in this easy season, how do I follow the Lord faithfully? And you will be challenged. I promise this, either of you, except for Cole and the few of you who follow her in her ways, you will be challenged by one or the other. It's going to be uncomfortable. What's interesting is that for some, the uncomfortable topics will be the easy, nice topics. Those are the harder ones for me to teach. I only picked one out. Brian's going to do the rest of them for me because he's happier than me. For others of you, what will be uncomfortable is to say, oh, Christians go through these hardships. This is normal. This is life. This is walking with the Lord. Yes. And so whichever one, we will be uncomfortable together, except for some of you who are rebels. Okay. Tonight we're going to talk about when God is distant. And I did a message on this on a Sunday morning a couple years ago. And since I know that you all have files of notes on everything that I say over the years, and you keep those and cherish them and frame them and put them on your wall and share them with your grandchildren, I know that you remember everything I said from that message. Just kidding. But I didn't want to just regurgitate it like exactly the same. That's kind of lame, especially because then the two of them would go online and they have like the same title, and then it would be weird, and then people would be like, this guy's lazy. He can't do two different things on the same thing. So I didn't want to be lazy. So some of this, a few things are points from there. That was a little more formal, and it's Sunday, and this is Wednesday, and so we speak a little bit differently maybe on Wednesday. Those are like holy people, and you are the salt of the earth. You are the true. Just kidding. But we can talk back and forth. So I'll give you a couple things today to consider, to think about, to pray about, and even a couple questions for you. And so we'll do it a little bit differently from a little bit of a different angle. But when God is distant, if you have ever, I'm sure you have, you drive right into the fog, and you drive into the fog, or pretend you're a little kid, right? And you're running, and the fog is kind of fun, and you want to go like get in the fog. And then you travel into the fog, and it always seems like the fog is just over there. And then you drive over there, and the fog has moved. And you drive over there, and the fog has moved. You've experienced this? You're like, when am I in the fog? It like, wherever I go, the fog seems to be still 20 feet away from me. Yes? Just nod. Yes. Okay. So sometimes it feels that way with the Lord, right? I pursue him. I do what I need to do. I've come to the place that I saw him be. He's here at church. He's in my Bible. He's on this YouTube thing. This is where he's supposed to be, right? He's in my quiet times. He's in worship. He's in the nature walk that I took. I did all the things that I was supposed to do. I pursued him. I went into the fog, and it's like he's still over there. Like the fog is still fleeting. It's still always 20 feet away. He's still distant. If you have not experienced this as a believer, if you're one of the happy unicorn people, you will experience this at some point. This is, we're going to say today over and over, this is normal. This is a standard thing. For me, this is almost, and this like you're like, oh, gasp. This is my standard. For me, God often feels distant. It's a pretty normal mode for me. It's one that I've learned to live in, and I've known people for whom God tells them like what to eat for lunch, and he's just like right there with them, and they just like, they read their Bible and they're crying in 2 minutes, and like that's not my personal experience. I do not have the unicorn that some of you own. Mine ran away. I just don't. And for some, and when I taught on this a couple of years ago, there was a couple of people who came up to me. They said it's really nice to know that a pastor feels that way. And so for some of you, it might be like, oh, how dare this guy who is allowed to teach us the Bible tell us that he often feels that God is distant. But I actually hope that it's encouraging. I hope that it's encouraging to know that it's A, normal, and B, something that we can learn to live with and learn to see in a certain way. So we're going to take a look at this as we go. And I want to ask you a question. You can answer this question. What are some times that God seems far away? Not stories from your life, but just examples that all of us can share. Some things that might make God feel far away. Anything you can think, Rob? Grief. Yes, sometimes grief. It could just be numb grief, and it's like, I feel nothing, therefore I feel no God. Or it could just be, I'm mad. Grief is a whole bundle unto itself. I would absolutely, and thank you for serving in Grief Share. Yes, Cole? Unanswered prayers. We're going to have a whole night just on that. Absolutely, that silent mode from God. And people are like, what is God telling you? And you're like, nothing. Is that wrong? What am I doing? Nothing, right? Yes. Okay, yes. In the back, was it Mark? Decision making. Yeah, kind of like that. God, what should I do? It's a hard one. That's a hard one. Yeah, was there another one? Yeah, Augie?
Outright disobedience when you know you're being disobedient.
Yeah. You run from God, God's going to not be right there, right? I don't want you around. I'm running from you. I'm in disobedience. I'm in rebellion. Well, no wonder, right? I said in my message a few years ago, which you all remember exactly, if you don't invite someone to your birthday, you can't be mad that they didn't come to your birthday. If you don't invite God into your life, you can't be mad that he didn't show up. Was there one in the back? Yes. Yeah, Jolene, yes, pain and suffering, to the point where some people will run because of that, and they'll never look back. And God caused my suffering, and so I'm gone, and I don't want anything to do with him ever again. Absolutely, really good. Very good. Okay. Yes, because I didn't know what you were going to say. I tried to answer myself, so you're like, "Man, why'd you even ask me?" But here's some things that I thought of as well. One, God might be, and so take a diagnostic of yourself. Take a look at these, and go, Lord, show me if one of these is me in my life right now, or maybe multiple ones. The first one, distraction, right? Distraction. It scares me to death that I have to stand up here, and all of you have a smartphone in your hand, right? You're probably not listening to me. I'm going to just start an experiment one day and be like, I'm just going to talk about like cactus species and just see if anyone notices, because I'm like, I know you're on your phone being like, what deals are on Groupon today? I don't know. There's probably some good ones you should check. Sometimes bowling, right? Distraction. I used to be able to sit and read for 3 hours without getting up or stopping. I can't do that anymore. It's really hard. I've learned to just be distracted all the time by this stupid thing. But I could do that when I was in college. That you're distracted. But what are we talking about here? We're talking about spiritual distraction. It could be my attention, right? But spiritual distraction is something else is more attractive. Something else is more comforting. Something else is more of a priority than the Lord. And so obviously he's going to seem distant if I'm just not paying any attention to him. An author, Stephen Iyer, says modern believers surrounded by physical abundance and recreational distractions need the ministry of the desert. We live in that easy thing. It's easy to get distracted. Absolutely. As Augie said, sin itself can be one of the reasons God seems distant, right? We find in our sin us pushing him away, and then we wonder where he went. Sin separates us from him, either our own personal sin like that, or the fact that our world is fallen in sin. And because it's fallen in sin, the first thing that was experienced with sin was we were separated from him. He came and visited Adam and Eve in the garden as he was a normal thing, and they run and they hide. And we've been living with the world pulling away, separating itself from God's presence ever since. And so we are separated still by sin. Disregard. If you're truly an Eeyore person like me, which I'm not like this, but you could get to the point where you're like, I don't even think that God would show up. I don't even think he does draw near. I don't even think he's around. I don't even or the idea, some of you might come here and go, I come to church and not realize that what you're really called to is to come to the presence of Christ, not just to come to church, right? Where it's like, I never even thought of the idea that he would be that close. That's just not something that's on my radar, or that just seems really nice, but that can't be really true. A disregard of God's closeness. And then silence, as a few of you said, that I cry out to him, I talk to him, I speak to him. He does not reply. How is that a relationship? How is that a two-way street? I'm the only one talking. I'm the only one putting any effort in. I'm the only one who seems to be here. He doesn't talk to me, and I become very bitter when I hear evangelical Christians, right? I come to Calvary and they're like, the Lord showed me this. The Lord said this to me. The Lord guided me. And some of us, it's like, how? How did he do that, and when and where, and how do I learn that? How do I learn that voice, right? That can be very frustrating, and we'll actually have a whole message on that. And then dryness, dryness is just kind of this general term we use sometimes spiritually, just for I'm laboring, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I feel like I'm in the right place, but there's no real change in me. There's no real, we call it fruit in my life. There's nothing really to show for it. I just sort of, is this it? This is everything. There's just a dryness, and that can feel like God has moved away from us. And then, as you said as well, suffering. The Lord, why would I move towards a God who is going to inflict suffering on me? He's the problem. This more than anything is going to either drive us to God or away from God, is our suffering. I hope that it's encouraging to know that if you feel that God is distant at times, you are in good company. You are in good company. You're even in biblical company, okay? David wrote about in Psalm 13 and Psalm 42. The second two, 63 and 84. David wrote about how God feels distant sometimes. I'm wrong. It is 13 and 42. Maybe it's just a few of them. I don't even know. Oh, that's why I put them in. I put them in order, and it's like 13 and 63. You know what? You don't. It doesn't matter. It's okay. It's all the Bible. But David does write in Psalm 13. He starts off with this: "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me?" That's a hard way to start, but that's where he's at, right? It's his honest assessment of how things feel. Is God has left me, and we look at somebody like David, and we go, "But David's David. I'm not even close to David." David is like, he just every like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I think he had this appointment where like God would appear to him and be like, "Go kill the Philistines," or "Wait, don't kill them yet. Kill them on that tomorrow." He just seems to be like in God's pocket just all the time. That seems to be his existence. And even David is saying, "God, where'd you go? Where are you? You've left me." The sons of Korah have a few different psalms where they write. They are 42 and 84. Sorry, 42 and 84. The 42 is as the deer pants for the water, so my soul longeth after thee. You remember that song, that hymn? You're like, oh, that's so beautiful. The whole thing of that is, God, where did you go? That's actually the psalm that I used in the previous sermon that you are very highly familiar with from a few years ago, was that psalm. The deer thing sounds, oh yes, my soul longs for you. But it's such a desperate cry. God, my soul is like a deer that's dying. That's the imagery that's used there. It's really mighty. It's really powerful. You're in good company if you feel that God is distant. There's a thing that sounds really technical, but it really isn't. It's called the availability heuristic. Have you heard of this? Availability heuristic. Okay, sounds like some sci-fi thing. It's actually not a sci-fi thing at all. What it is that we tend to take the most either emotional, available, or maybe stereotypical example and go, that's normal. That's what's normal. So how do we apply that to the Bible? We go to the Bible and we go, oh my gosh, these biblical figures, God was always so present in their life, always so powerful in their life, always moving, always showing them, always doing these things. It just seems so common. It's on like every page. The problem is those pages are sometimes huge gaps of time. We might go, chapter 7, and then you turn to chapter 8, and it doesn't say it always. You sometimes have to read between the lines, but it might be like 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later, right? And so we go, oh, it was just all the time for them. Why is it not all the time for me? Why is God not always this powerful and this present in my life? Well, he's not that way, even in the people that we look to in the Bible. So again, we're in good company, okay? Thomas A. Kempis, he says this, and I like this. He says, many holy and devout souls have been proved by dryness and seemed for a long while as if it were abandoned by God, that they might thereby learn patience and compassion for others by the sense of their own sorrow and need, and not to presume too much on themselves in the moment of fervor and in the season of spiritual jubilation. Very medieval way of writing here, but he's saying that we are made in those dry times. That's what he's saying. We are formed, we are made in those dry times, because in the good times, there's a risk there, and we'll talk about that next week, but there's a risk there when things are going well. Even when God seems near, there is a risk. There is a risk of spiritual complacency, okay? Let me ask you a question. If I say we're in good biblical company, we might be like, well, but Jesus never would have experienced this kind of difficulty. So can you think of, how would Jesus have experienced this spiritual distance? Would he ever have experienced distance from God? Mark. On the cross, how so? Yeah. He's on the cross. He quotes the beginning of Psalm 22, my God, why have you forsaken me? You know that because it's a powerful one, right? You don't know Philippians 4:13, but you know this one. That's good for you. I'm glad. Maybe we don't have to do memory verses. Yes, my God, why have you forsaken me? Some Bible scholars have said all he's doing is making a reference and being like, hey guys, this is kind of like what happened with what David said. I don't think so. Now, because then they debate like, how did God really turn his back? How much? To what point? And how far was his face from Jesus? I don't know. But I know this. Jesus is saying, I am abandoned here. I am alone. I am forsaken. I am not going to be rescued. No one's coming for me. I am not getting out of this. I'm drinking doom at this point, right? So he's absolutely, yes, God feels, I think, more distant to him there than he will ever feel to us ever. Anything else? Anything else, if you dig a little deep, anything else you think Jesus might have experienced a distance? Yeah, Sherry.
Well, every day he left heaven and he's down here living with people and he prays so he gets that closeness with God, but just going about life, it's not the same as it was before he came.
Yeah. To repeat for those online, he leaves heaven. It's not the same experience. He's not. I mean, he's still part of the Trinity, which is so mysterious to us. But at the same time, he's a man, and he goes about, and he doesn't have that same. We don't understand it all, but in some way, that connection that he had to the Father and the Spirit is different, at least. We don't know that it's less, but it's at least different, right? And so he's now experiencing life like us, where it's not the same, to the point where, what did he do to reconnect with the Father? He would go off by himself, right, and pray, sometimes all night long, right? He would go out and be by himself because he needed that connection. But that means that his connection was, something he had to pursue. It wasn't the same the same closeness. It was something he had to pursue and be active and diligent about. And it was something that was for a time. So he would go like reconnect for a time. Does that mean that there's this really hard line between, the Son and the Father while he's on earth? No, and we don't understand. But all I'm getting at, and if you're like, I don't even know what you're talking about anymore, we could talk after, because that now we're getting into deep theology. But Jesus, who is God, comes and he's here, right? And so he's going to experience it actually closer, I believe, to what we experience in that way. Any other thoughts on this? Yes, Cole. Yeah, very good. I didn't think about that. When he's in the desert, he's being challenged by Satan, right? He's kind of out there by himself. It says that the Spirit led him into the wilderness, but then it almost seems like, okay, bye. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened. Again, I don't want to make a theological statement like that, but he's led out there, and now who shows up is the devil, and it's really an uncomfortable. Luke 4, you can read about that. Was there a hand back here? She took it. Man. Took it. She stole it from you. Yeah. That's just a way that students pretend they had an answer. Oh, that person took mine. They took it. That was good, though. I like. Yes, Brian. The passion, the suffering and death of Christ. Yeah. It feels so. If you go read it. It feels so alone. His friends have left him, and then he says, at the end, it's, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" And so it's like it just gets worse and worse and worse, right? Yeah. Other thoughts? Yeah, Augie.
The moment he died on the cross.
Yeah, when he dies, right? Yeah.
When he went down to Sheol.
Okay. Yeah. So alone on the cross. Okay. All right. I really like this. I'm stealing this from myself, who stole it from Tim Keller, but I really like this. Tim Keller, who I really appreciate, he gives this analogy of a rowboat, and he talks about how when God feels distant, when things feel dry, when we feel like we're nowhere with him, there's 4 modes that we can be in. And I want you to ask yourself, which of these characterizes you right now? The first one being sailing. Things are going well. I'm cruising along. I'm experiencing the Lord. I'm doing great. Awesome. Come back next week, because we'll talk about some of that. Okay. I'm sailing. I don't even need to row. The wind is just blowing me along, and God's telling me what to eat for lunch, and things are just going great, right? I'm rowing. I have some doubts and some dryness. My prayers don't often seem answered, but I'm refusing self-pity or despair. I'm doing the spiritual work to pursue the Lord. So it's work now. It's intention now. It's discipline now. It's hard now, but I'm doing it, and it's going okay. And I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing, even though it's a challenge. I am having to row, but I'm seeing fruit as I pursue the Lord. Or are you drifting? Are you experiencing the conditions of rowing? Right? I'm working hard, but I'm beginning to give into self-pity. stopping prayer and other spiritual activity, indulging in fleshly distractions. So now it's like, well, it's not really working. So I'll show up. I'll show up at church. I'll show up, in some form or fashion. But really, God's kind of abandoning me, so I'm going to start to abandon Him, and I'm starting to go down that road of self despair. Or are you sinking? Resentment has taken over, and you've given into hopelessness. You don't even know why you're here tonight. You don't know why you came. You thought maybe that there were donuts on Wednesdays too, and you were disappointed that there are not donuts on Wednesdays. My poor daughter thinks every time she comes here, there's a donut, and there is not, and it's a sad thing. Okay, are you just sinking? Right? Are you just sinking into despair? Now, I don't know that that's you because you're here now, and that might be a sign that you're not, but wow, to know that we can easily slide from one of these to the next, to the next, to the next, and come to that place where God has left me. My God, why have you forsaken me? And we say it with this finality that only Jesus has ever had to say it with, and we pretend that we have the same finality, that He's gone, He's left. When you're going through the motions, here's what I would say. When you're going through, I'm just going through the motions. That's not the worst thing in the world. When you're going through the motions, keep going. When you're rowing, keep rowing. When you're going, well, I'm reading my Bible and I'm praying and I'm fellowshipping and I'm going to church and I'm singing and I'm praising God, but it just feels like I'm just doing that to do that. Okay. If that's where you're at, then be there and just keep doing that, because why? There's a muscle that develops, and you can go on YouTube and I pretend to be Karate Kid, and you can watch the whole thing, and it's really fun and silly, and it's really not. I'm never fun and silly, but you can go watch me do Karate Kid. But we build up muscle memory. I don't have any, but you do, right? I guess I don't have any muscles, but muscle memory is just like you know how to just today I was folding laundry with my daughter, and I fold shirts a certain way, and I couldn't explain how I fold the shirts. I just had to fold the shirt because my brain just goes, and I just have this way that I fold. It's very. I did it. I studied in a Shaolin temple for how to fold shirts, and I'm just like bam, 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 bam. Okay, muscle memory. I can't even tell you wait, how do I do it? What do I do first? What do I do second? What do I do third? Muscle memory. Spiritually speaking, we develop a muscle memory that says even when God doesn't seem to be here, I continue to do the things that pursue Him, and I continue to do the things that are true in the fact that He is around. And we'll talk about that more next week when he is close. I continue to do what I need to do even when I don't feel it, because in doing that, I build up this discipline in order to pursue Him. Okay. Let me argue against myself a little bit, and let me ruin, not ruin next week, but just argue against. Next week, Brian will talk about when God is close. And some of you are like, yes. The unicorn people are like, I need that. I need to come back when God is close. This is really a bummer. I don't like this message. But let me give you even more of a bummer. Let me just take it to another level. There is a sense. So next week we're going to say that God is close, right? God is close. Now, but there's a sense in which he is distant. Gasp. Fear. Abandon my faith. No, don't abandon your faith. But there's a sense in which God is distant, in the sense that we don't experience Him in the full capacity that we are meant to. Okay, we don't experience Him in the full capacity that we are meant to. 1 John 3, 1 and 2 says that when we see Him as He is, we will be like Him. We will experience Him in ways that we right now we long for. We know that we need, we know that we miss, but we've never really fully experienced that with Him. We've had little glimpses, we've had little samples, but there's more in store. And so when God feels distant, you should be able to say, that's a good sign. That's a good sign that I miss Him, right? I want Him closer. If God felt distant and you were like, that's fine, I don't care, that doesn't matter to me, I don't want any more of God anyway, I am just here for the donuts. That's not good, right? That's my theological term. That's just not good, because that means that you are either too satisfied with something that really can't satisfy you, you're too distracted, you're too running from God in sin, or again, you're in disregard of God's not going to show up. He doesn't draw. This is just not a thing. when we miss Jesus, when we learn to miss him, that's actually a healthy thing because it says God has more in store. God's presence will come to me more powerfully one day. He has more than this in store, and we await his return. In John 14:3, Jesus says, just before his death, he says, and if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and will take you to myself, that where I am, you may be also. So you shouldn't be satisfied, unicorn people. Hear me, unicorn people. You shouldn't be satisfied, right? That like, oh no, the presence, like I'm 100% where I need to be. Like I experience God's presence at the capacity that I ought to. Like I'm just good. I don't need this. I'm a unicorn person. This is great. No, there should be a little bit of divine discontent. There should be a little bit of dissatisfaction. It should feel like, God, where'd you go sometimes? Because otherwise this would be it. And I don't think that's what God has for us. I think he has more. And so we feel that distance, which is a good thing. We can also say that, we know that phrase, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? When someone's not here, you're like, oh, I miss them. And then they come back and you're like, I don't miss you anymore. That's the opposite, right? Familiarity breeds contempt, but not with the Lord. So absence makes the heart grow fonder. There's something to, now, I don't mean to say that God is like, I'm a weird person, and so I want you to love me more, so I'm gonna abandon you. That's weird. That's like manipulative. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is your desire of, I'm frustrated, I wish God were closer, is a way that sharpens and hones our desire for God, meaning I know he has more, right? I know this isn't it. I know I can continue to pursue him. I know that he will come again. I know that I'm built for more than this. I know that his presence means more to me than I'm receiving. So we await his return. On Holy Saturday, which is the day before Easter, we've been doing the last few years a kind of meditation and prayer night here in this room. And one of the things we do that night, because we're commemorating Jesus being in the grave and we wait for his resurrection, is we take a moment to miss him, which is kind of a weird thing to do, which we're going to try tonight, to sit and be like, okay, I miss you. But something in us, it should characterize our whole life. Our whole life when things aren't quite right, when God seems quiet, when God seems distant, when this can't be it, this can't be the full force of my relationship with the Lord. Great. Miss him then. Allow yourself to miss him. If you've ever wished that you had a time machine, or you watched a Jesus movie and you're like, I wish I could go back and just like see what he was like and like watch him interact with a crowd. I wish that I could approach him, and I wish I could look him in the eyes. I wish I could bend down and kiss his feet. I wish I could what would he say to me? What would he do? What would his demeanor be? What would his face be like? I wish I had experienced him in some way like these people in the Bible got to experience him, and I don't have that chance now. I think what we can do is we can say, okay, God, so what is your presence in my life now? Because I do miss you. I even just miss the idea of you. I even just am curious about what it would be like to interact with you like that. And I'm frustrated. It would be a good frustration to be frustrated that we can't. So we're going to try. And sorry if you're online and you're watching, you can do this at home. Don't do it while you're driving tomorrow, if you're watching this tomorrow, but you can do this now. Just don't close your eyes, I guess, while you're driving. We're going to take a second. You can close your eyes or not. I can barely see you, so I won't know. My eyes are pretty bad, and it's pretty bright up here. You can close your eyes or not, but we're going to take a second. We're going to reflect on a few things. And if this is super uncomfortable for you, you'll be okay. You will live. I won't make you do anything weird. If the word meditation freaks you out, it's a biblical word. I promise not to make you chant anything. Don't worry. Take a deep breath. Okay. All right. So I want you to take a moment. We're gonna quiet ourselves for a second. And I want you quietly, silently to talk with the Lord. Allow yourself a moment to miss him. Think about the fact that he's not here to the full extent that you wish he were, and that maybe in your life he used to seem more present, and now he seems to have moved away from you. Or maybe you just wish for the day that he'll return and you'll be with him. And just take a second and tell him silently how and why you miss him. And if that missing involves anger, frustration, bitterness, a question of why have you abandoned me, I want you to take that to him as well. And if that missing him involves a hope, a curiosity of what more can I experience of your presence, God, take a moment and ask him to be more present to you. And now take a moment and submit yourself to whatever he has to show you throughout this series. If you intend to expect always good things, ask him to expand that into understanding how to follow him through suffering. And if you expect only to suffer, ask him to teach you how to be comfortable and joyful. Okay. All right. I said that when sometimes it's like we've gone into the fog, and the fog is always receding from you. And the more you pursue it, the more it seems to recede. And sometimes that's how pursuing God feels. However, the irony is it's only like that when you're in the fog. You are in the fog when the fog seems to recede. You are in the presence of the Lord when the Lord seems distant. So next week we'll talk about that. We'll talk about when God is near to us. How do we know it? How do we respond? And so let me close in prayer, and we'll do our final song. Holy Father, we do put ourselves before you wherever we land, Lord God. Anywhere in this experience, anywhere in the spectrum from anger and bitterness to hope and curiosity. God, sometimes we don't know why, but you just don't seem close. You don't feel close. You don't look like you're being, don't look like you're near us. And so God, we pray that you would give us the wisdom, the hope, the grace to know that you are near. Next week, Lord, teach us to learn when you are near and how to see you, how to identify you, how to know your presence, Lord God, how to be in your presence. We pray, Lord, that you would teach us from wherever we're coming from, wherever we land, that you would just draw us more closely into yourself, Lord God. We put this whole series before you, all the different topics we'll talk about, the different journey that we'll go on. We put each heart here before you, God. And we pray that you'd be speaking to each one, that you'd be healing, that you'd be calling, that you'd be introducing yourself in new ways, and that you'd be expanding the way that we see what it is to faithfully follow you, that you are the same God who never changes, no matter what our circumstance. We pray these things all in your Son's name, Lord. Amen.